Hello, everyone at Bright Talk. I'm Nicholas Jan. I am a cybersecurity engineer at Fearings Audio Video Security, and today I am going to be covering the topic of the effects of human behavior in cybersecurity. So we're just going to roll through this real quick, just so everyone gets a little background on me if you haven't read it. I've been in the IT field for 12 plus years. I'm a network specialist by degree at Madison College in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been in cybersecurity over 5 years. I've had customers in construction, law, medical, health insurance, local, county, state, law enforcement, oil, retail, utilities. You get the idea. I've had a lot of different fields. And I'm a partner with Checkpoint, Cisco, and Microsoft. And I have expertise in a lot of different areas, Checkpoint, Cisco, Symantec, Palo Alto, Trend Micro. With Cisco, Meraki stuff, Azure stuff for Microsoft, Office 365, AWS cloud hosting, Okta, Box, and then for servers, I've done things with HP, Dell, Lenovo. You get the idea. And I have, for training, for formal training, I've had instruction by Craig Newman, a former voting member of ICANN, Mike Messino, a current member of the GIAC advisory board, and Brent Sealing, who is a member of the Cisco Press. He does a lot of authoring for labs in the CCNA exams, for the CCNP exams, for the new voice stuff. So I've had a lot of heavy hitters give me really good instructions. And now I'm here to pass on the things that I've done and learned so that everyone watching this, and who are both the experts of their fields, who are the executive officers who rely on the experts in their field of cybersecurity, and for the people at home, the people that need a help but don't know where to go. So hopefully this video can help everyone out. So let's go ahead and get into the screen share now, so I can let you guys actually see everything that we're going through here. There's my wonderful picture and my stuff, and here's the effects title. So all right, so get into the topics now. What are the cyber criminals' purposes and goals? Why are they doing the things that they're doing to you? How does human behavior factor into cybersecurity? How can cyber criminals take advantage of human behavior? What tools do cyber criminals have? Common false assumptions about cyber attacks, social engineering. What can IT and IS do? Do's and don'ts for your own personal good cybersecurity hygiene. Little things to watch out for. This will be for the novices and for the experts. Just because you're an expert in your field doesn't mean you've seen everything. So I'm going to share my point of view on that. And we're going to go over a social engineering attack example. All right, so purposes and goals. Well, their purposes are very, very straightforward. And their goals are just as straightforward as well. To get sensitive information from the direct target. Goal is to make money. Purpose, gain lateral access to another individual or group of individuals. Goal for that is to make money selling sensitive information. So the more they can get, the better. Gain access to a particular system. And the goal for that really is for causing damage to a target. Another purpose, gain access to a system for lateral movement in a target environment. And the goal for that is to cause disruptions to internal and external target environments. Gain access to an external system. That kind of ties into the same one. And then the last of the goals, watch the world burn. This does happen. There are people that just want to watch the world burn. They like seeing chaos unfold. Like any other field, the cybersecurity is not an exception to that. So you have to be ready for those types of attackers as well. Now, how does human behavior factor into cybersecurity? A lot of different things. So first off, we as human beings, we make mistakes. We do configuration errors. We have poor judgment on things. We don't always think that that's the case, but it does happen more often than not. We overlook small details. We don't implement all recommendations. We open files and web links that we shouldn't, which ties into our little factor here of we're trusting and curious. The next thing that we are forgetful. We have manual tasks, and we don't always complete all of them because we literally forget, oh, there was something that I was supposed to do, and don't do it. We like to take the easier option. This one ties into mainly from what I've seen, people choosing to not enable multi-factor authentication because yes, there are extra steps. You have to put an extra effort up ahead. But if you do it, you do a much better job of protecting yourself and the company and even customers, which is something that a lot of people forget to factor in when you're doing anything for yourself as a company or for customers. How is your cybersecurity going to affect them? We get overloaded with tasks. We're human beings. We can only do so many things at once. We're panicky as people, and when we're panicky, we react without thinking, and that can have some very dire consequences. We're prideful. We go and think, oh, we don't need help. Well, I already know everything that I need to know, which is definitely not the case. Everyone, myself included. Now, how can cyber criminals take advantage of human behavior? Well, it's straightforward again. They can embed malware in attachments. They can create websites that look similar enough to the real thing. They can infect legitimate websites. They can send fraudulent communications. They can trick people into giving them sensitive information. They can hack in through improperly secured backdoors. And for everyone that is watching this, yes, that is part of what happened with SolarWinds and FireEye and CrowdStrike and parts of Microsoft Azure for select partners. They have a little more wiggle room on what they can have control over, which is part of what happened to Microsoft. The next thing that hackers can take advantage of is they can utilize vulnerable legit traffic and protocols. And again, a great example of that is with SolarWinds. Once SolarWinds was hacked on the back end, they compromised a lot of systems because SolarWinds as a system still has to get updates. So that legit update protocol and packages were infected, but because they were known and trusted, a lot of things just let it go through and went completely unnoticed. The next thing that hackers can take advantage of is they can utilize, I already did that one, hack into personal mobile devices. This gets around a number of defenses because people literally will think, oh, this doesn't happen to my device. I have an iPhone. They're not going to hack an iPhone. That's not true. The hackers think about that. They think, oh, what are they not going to pay attention to? The personal device, the personal mobile is very high on the list, and hackers are smart. The last thing is they will overload incorrectly sized and inadequate security edge appliances. So firewalls. If you have a firewall that's meant for a house, a consumer grade router that has firewall built into it, and you're trying to protect a business that has a static address, has a lot of known public records saying this is where I am, they're going to target that and they're going to overload it, and it's effectively going to be useless. They'll get around it. They'll break through it, and they'll get into your stuff and you'll be compromised. What tools do cyber criminals have? Well, they have phishing, which is a broad email campaign of just trying to get credentials, of phishing your personal information and possibly even customers' information if you have customers. Spear phishing, which instead of the broad email campaign is focused. They actually target you directly as a company. Whaling, again, it's the same thing. It's phishing, but is targeted at the executive level. So CEOs, COOs, CFOs, CISOs, even though you would think that targeting a CISO would be a bad idea, it can still actually work. Angler phishing, which again is like phishing, but it's done over social media. So if a hacker knows your name at your company, what your title is, and they find you on Facebook or Twitter or Twitch or whatever it is you want to use, they will try to get sensitive information from you over that, because you're not going. Most people don't think about that. They don't think, oh, I'm just on social media, no one's going to care. But then someone starts talking to you, and all of a sudden you're blabbing on things you really shouldn't be blabbing. Vishing, again, it's phishing, but it's over phone calls. So when someone calls you, it says they're so-and-so with this department at this company or this federal agency, and they trick you into giving them information that you really shouldn't be giving them because you're not familiar enough. You don't know, oh, the FBI doesn't call and say, hey, I need you to verify your social security number so I can make sure that this person over in XYZ country or this state is not you. That's what they do. Phishing, same thing as everything else. It's just over texting. And then the things that everyone else knows about already: computer malware, mobile device malware, botnets, drive-by downloads, website spoofing and phishing, email spoofing, Trojans, worms, rootkits, ransomware, multi-vectored malware as a service. That one's going to cause a lot of people to go, wait a minute, there's a malware as a service platform. Does that actually work? Yes, it does. A lot of companies have actually started using it. A lot of countries have actually started using that. And yes, there is a help desk line. Found this out through my Checkpoint partnership, that they've been tracking it, and they've been combating it for quite a while. So it's a real thing, and there are things that can be done about it. But the number one thing is be aware of it. Know that hackers are getting smarter about utilizing their skill sets, because what's the number one thing that they want to do? They want to make money. Common false assumptions about cyber attacks. Well, this is my list. This is what I've come up with over the years of what other people have told me that they've heard people say, of what I've heard CEOs and directors of companies say directly. So this is a real list, and please take it to heart, because this information is going to help a lot of people do a better job of protecting themselves. Whether you're an individual or a director of a company, the IT staff of a company, an engineer that's trying to protect customers, this is going to help, because knowing the real things about attacks is the number one thing that'll help everyone. Knowing the whys and the hows makes everything else fall in line. Only large corporations and government agencies will be attacked. That is false. Mobile devices can't be used to attack non-mobile devices. This is also false. I've actually seen a CEO's iPhone be used to launch a Trojan onto a Windows server, and then that Trojan released a worm, and that worm infected the entire corporation. So it definitely happens. Apple Mac OS can't get viruses. This is a common misconception for a long time. It still is a common misconception. People still think, oh, I don't need to install antivirus on my newest, latest, and greatest MacBook. Wrong. You need to. Go find it. If you don't have it right now and you're watching this, I will not feel bad if you jump off immediately looking for the first thing that you can get, which just a quick FYI, there's only a couple that I know of that actually are legit. Trend Micro has their worry-free business solution for the businesses. Checkpoint has their Sandblast agent that will work on Mac OS, all versions of it to I think it was 10.7 going backwards. So those are the two that I would recommend you focus on. Everyone else is going to be just noise. Chromebooks running Chrome OS can't get viruses. This is also false. I don't have a solid list on what's available for Chrome OS for protections. I know Checkpoint is working on it. So if you don't have it right now and you can't find anything, know that Checkpoint is working on it. And I believe Trend Micro is as well. I can't confirm because I'm not a direct Trend Micro partner right now, so I don't have that info, so I can't share that. The next one is that I don't have anything that a hacker would want. You have a social security number. You have a driver's license number. You have a tax number with the IRS. You have a mortgage on your house. You have a car loan. You have collateral. You have stocks. You have connections into businesses. You have tons of things that every hacker wants, and you at your house, you're an easy target. And hackers have gone wise to this, and that's not to our benefit, not to anyone's benefit except their own. So please don't think that you're safe at your house just sitting behind a non next gen firewall home router. There are home routers that are equipped with next gen firewalls that do anti-malware and IPS and all sorts of other things. You can find a lot of details about that, and a lot of managed cybersecurity providers are starting to provide those type of services to people at their homes. So definitely look them up. They are there, and it's going to be very helpful to you. Game consoles are platforms that aren't targeted. That's false. Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, they've all been targeted, and most of them, if not all of them, have been hacked in the last year or two. So definitely get that get that crazy thought out of your mind. Your game console is very much a target. So put a good firewall in front of that as soon as possible, please. I don't like seeing people get hit, and it's why I'm doing this. Video streaming services aren't targeted. That's, again, false. YouTube has been targeted. Hulu has been targeted. Anything that does active streaming, because a lot of people don't want to put in the work to protect it when it's coming into their homes or into their businesses. But if you don't do it, you can be hit and it'll be bad. So please start filtering that stuff and put in the correct rules to allow it so you can still do the things that you want to do. Put in that work. Malware as a service doesn't exist. I touched on this on the previous slide. It absolutely exists. Thinking my firewall is all I need to protect my stuff. No, you need next gen. You need things that do anti-malware filtering as things come through. You need intrusion prevention systems. Detection at the very minimum, but I highly recommend get intrusion prevention, things that stop known exploits. Whether it's an exploit for the firewall itself or not, it's going to protect everything else. So get those things in place. Thinking that traditional anti-malware is good enough. It's not good enough anymore. Thinking that next-gen anti-malware is good enough. I know that sounds contradictory, but you want both. You want both next-gen and traditional. Both of them protect against something that the other does not. And I can get into more of that in the Q&A later. Thinking that all encryption is safe. No, it's not. There are encryption levels that have been deprecated that are still in use. Websites that are not putting in a strong enough encryption cipher underneath. Just because you have TLS 1.2 doesn't mean it's secure enough. It's just not. If you need help getting into that, you can touch base on that with me on the Q&A later. If we don't get to it in the Q&A, I will be putting up details for everyone to be able to contact me so we can all communicate by email later to make sure that everyone gets all the info, because my number one thing in this is to make sure everyone is properly equipped with all the knowledge they can, because knowledge is key. And the last one kind of gets into the underlying theme of my entire presentation, that it always involves just digital techniques, and it definitely does not. There are plenty of non-digital, analog, people-to-people, things that get people to think that they're safe or not safe when they actually are and doing crazy things. And the next slide actually gets into that. So social engineering definitions. So what is social engineering? Something that a lot of people don't really dig in enough on to understand. And again, as my whole shtick of this entire presentation is making sure that everyone knows more. Knowledge is the best defense, and taking care of that and our human behavior is going to take every company, no matter what you're using, from a very, very low level of preparation for a cyber attack to being much more prepared. Social engineering itself is the term used for a broad range of malicious activities accomplished through human interactions. It uses psychological manipulation to trick users into making security mistakes or giving away sensitive information. It's also defined as the artificial controlling or changing of how a society develops. And even though that's out of a dictionary, that still applies. They're changing how a group of people are developing, how they're behaving. They're getting you to do what they want you to do. It also is, by definition, attempts to trick people into giving secret or personal information, especially through the internet. And it's always for harmful purposes, harmful to you, beneficial to the hacker. Now, how does social engineering work? Well, as the definitions alluded to, it's they're taking advantage of their own understanding of psychology, sociology, and anthropology. So this is tying into what I alluded to before. Cyber attacks are not just digital. A lot of hackers have more than just digital skills. A lot of them actually do have experience as a psychologist, as a sociologist, as an anthropologist. A lot of them get degrees in these things, and then something happens and they, quote unquote, go to the dark side. They research. They're smart. Like I said, they get degrees in things. They research their targets. Just like when they're researching the papers for their dissertations to get their degrees, they're researching their targets. And they're using anything and everything possible. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, MySpace for anyone that's still using it, public phone directories, things that people don't think about, voter registration, those things that are public record if someone requests it. Police records, again, you can request a police record and get it. Whether it's them having to pay for it or not. And consumer shopping data. There are companies that register what people are doing, whether you actually recognize it or not, and they offer it to anyone as long as you're willing to pay for it. And a lot of hackers are willing to pay for it because, let's face it, if you can spend a couple $100, get a list of people, and exploit just one of those people and get thousands of dollars, they've made profit. They like to, they pose as someone else to contact other possible connections that you have to gather data. And they always do this initially in small chunks so people don't realize what's happening. They will perform reconnaissance actions. They'll use non-malicious emails, text messages, phone calls, going to you directly as the target and to your contacts indirectly, just to gauge how everyone is behaving, is finding what their attack avenues are. And then they take all of this information and, like the smart people that they are, they cater the attack. They take all the information they've gotten. They take their personal expertise, their experience, their knowledge, and then they use it and they try to get a specific personal, psychological, sociological, or anthropological response that benefits them, that gets them what they want. Now, how effective is social engineering? Extremely. It accounts for 32% of all data breaches involving phishing, and it costs companies anywhere from millions to billions of US dollars. And that's not just in the US. That's That's just saying what the equivalency is. So people over in the European Union, people over in Great Britain, people in Canada, all of them, everywhere, north part of the planet, south part of the planet, doesn't matter. It affects everyone and it hits everyone. And then social engineering techniques. This is the definition that I actually get from Checkpoint on the actual effectiveness of social engineering attacks. And this is what they say by quote. Social engineering techniques, as well as varying and personalizing the content of the emails, are additional methods allowing the scammers to fly safely under the radar of anti-spam filters and reach their target's inbox. And the title of the publication is Evasive Phishing Cyber Attacks, and it's section 2. You can find it on Checkpoint's website. Attack surfaces. So this is another thing that everyone needs to realize. This is how they can hit you digitally. The place that is the number one hit point is the network internet edge. So your firewalls, your spam filters, your URL filters, the things that are supposed to protect your people. If those systems are not properly patched, they can actually be a launch point. So instead of protecting, they can do more harm if they're not properly patched and updated, which is part of why the thing with SolarWinds and FireEye is so dangerous, is that the way that those got affected is the hackers took advantage of the update system and used that to deploy and change everything into a whole bunch of what are called zombies. They created a botnet out of all of the legit devices. The next thing is endpoints. And some of the things on this list, you're probably going, no, that can't be. No one's using Windows XP or Vista anymore. Yes, they are. A lot of hospitals still can't quite get all of their systems up to date quite yet, and they can't have operations at a hospital, an ER room, a surgical office. They can't have those things go down. So until all of them can get up to date, they have to make sure that everything keeps running. So they can't just jump off. Linux, every single edition of Linux can be hit. Mac OS, Windows Server, and yes, there are still Windows servers out there that are running 2003 and 2008. Same reason, hospitals that can't jump off it yet. And a lot of corporations that haven't the capital to just jump into upgrading. A lot of them have to plan it out. A lot of agencies have to plan it out, so they can't just jump the very moment something says, oh, it's not going to be supported in the next couple of years. That's a lot of places. That's still not enough time. I wish it wasn't the case, but that is. Mobile endpoints, your Android phones, tablets, iOS, iPad OS, Blackberries, all of those can be attacked and used either as the direct target or as a launching point. And just because they're not going to use it as a direct attack and as a launching point doesn't mean you shouldn't be protecting it. So please get mobile device protection. Mobile device management is not good enough. Communication platforms, they can use, as we discovered in my list earlier, texting, voice calls, and social media, as well as what everyone already knows about, emails. And cloud. A lot of people are either jumping on the cloud or too afraid of it. Well, both are wrong. I don't mean that in a bad way. So cloud storage, both on the private, public, and hybrid platforms. And if you don't know what those mean, definitely look it up. You're going to want to find out what is the difference between a private cloud, a public cloud, and a hybrid cloud. So storage, compute hosting, collaboration, website, hosted email, all of that is part of the cloud. So if you're using Office 365, you're already in the cloud because that's hosted email. So all of those are attack surfaces. All those things need to be protected. Now, what can IT and IS do? Well, the number one thing, just like I'm doing in this video, is educate your end users. Create, update, and follow a company WISP, a written information security policy. Having that is going to help everyone know exactly what has to happen. Deploy anti-phishing measures if you haven't done so already. Deploy SSL, multi-factor authentication, and password-less authentication. Yes, there is a thing, password-less authentication. FIDO keys are a huge thing. The second gen of FIDO keys are already a thing. If you're not familiar with them, I highly recommend looking them up. It's going to help you out a lot. And like I said from the last screen, deploy mobile device protection. It's not the same thing as mobile device management. An MDM is not going to actually protect your systems. All it's going to do is make sure everyone's patched, and patching, as we've all discovered, is not enough. Because if the patching on the back end gets compromised, like with SolarWinds and FireEye and CrowdStrike, it's not going to be good enough. You're going to be updating and having an infected patch on the OS. And without a proper anti-malware suite that accounts for that, you're going to miss it. And then you're going to be compromised without knowing it, and it's going to get bad really fast. Deploy both traditional and next-gen anti-malware. Layer your protection systems. Don't rely on just one single layer. And I don't mean this by saying, oh, make sure you have URL protection and anti-malware and a firewall. That's not the same thing. Layering your protection is actually having an overlap. So it's going to be, you have URL protection, you have DNS protection. Both of those protect against web-based fronts. An endpoint protection that protects URLs and websites. That's three different things that are all going to help protect you. If one misses, the next one is able to take care of it in the same avenue, the same attack front, the same attack surface. That's what you have to do. You have to layer them up on the attack surfaces. Email protection. You can have an email filter before it hits your Office 365 environment. You can have something that's actually actively checking things inside Office 365, and then you can have your endpoints protected. So if there's anti-malware scanning your emails in your Outlook app, on your Windows computer, your Mac OS, your Android, your iPhone, if you're scanning there too, okay, now you're protecting against email-based threats at 3 different layers. And then your hosts, your endpoints, protecting the OS kernel, protecting both passively and actively, putting in things like App Locker, putting in things that are going to control EXE launches by paths, by signatures, doing both of them, putting in the legwork. It's a number one thing that you have to do. Centralize your cybersecurity as much as possible. And if you're not comfortable enough doing that, bring in someone from the outside. I know it's an extra expense, but that extra expense is going to be worth it when you're properly protected. Follow zero trust cybersecurity models. If you don't know what that is, look it up. The more you can educate yourself on these things, the better. And again, you don't have to be a full expert. Just know enough about it so you know when you're contacting an MSSP or an MSP, whatever you end up doing, you're asking the right questions and you have at least an idea of what kind of answers you should be getting. Automate your patch management. So like with Windows computers, you can have a Windows Update server for your endpoints, for your mobile devices, and endpoint management, the MDM, that can help with automating patch management. Automate OS hardening. So when you're setting up a new laptop, everything gets protected, everything gets hardened automatically, and you don't have to think about it. Removing that human factor as much as possible is a key thing. The less that we can mess up on our own, the better. Take advantage of the cloud while properly securing it. Bring in an outside source, an MSSP, someone that knows cloud environments and knows how to properly protect it. Automate your internal audits. Have a platform that's designed to look for vulnerabilities and will give you raw, unfettered reports. Having that so that's always happening gives you a better understanding of where your environment is. And then verify that. At least once a year, bring in an external auditor to verify all of your internal audits are matching up. Don't tell them that you've been doing internal audits, just bring them in, have them find out what they're finding, and then take what they tell you and what your internal audits say and compare. And last thing is always assume you have something cyber criminals wants. And that is 100% true. That is, I have never seen that be a, nope, you don't have anything a hacker would want. Have not seen that yet. So please always assume you have something that a hacker wants. How to securely layer protection. I already got into that before, so we'll just skip this right now. Do's and don'ts. So these are the things that everyone, experts, newcomers, novices, these are the things that you really need to hone in on. So if you have spaced out everything else in this presentation, pay attention to this part right now. So the first one is pay attention to the from line in your emails. Don't assume that the display name is legit in an email. That from line can be spoofed. It can be artificially manipulated by a hacker. They can make you think that they're someone that they're not. And most email systems nowadays will give you a hint that that's happening, whether it's an outright saying, hey, this is suspected phishing or not. If you're watching for this, where you see the display name, but then you see something else, odds are something's not right here. Verify phone calls, texts, and emails that are not expected. Don't assume the person is who they say they are. Take a moment after receiving an unexpected call, text, or email. Don't just immediately react to abrupt claims, even if it is just to set the record straight. Because if you do something to set the record straight with someone, you can inadvertently tell them, hey, this is a valid way of getting in touch with you. This is a way that they can take advantage of you. So don't just set records straight. If someone's saying something that's wrong, go ahead, let them. What are they doing? How do they have any credibility with anyone to tarnish your name? Be skeptical of email attachments and web links. Don't just trust that all attachments and web links are safe. If something says that you're going to google.com, it may not actually be going to Google. It may be going somewhere that looks like Google. Always be skeptical. Assume everything on social media is publicly accessible. Whether you have your safe settings, your privacy settings set a specific way, there are ways around it. And it's a social media platform. It's public. People can find out things whether you want them to or not. Always secure your passwords using highly reviewed password vaults. I highly recommend LastPass. Don't write your password down on a sticky note and attach it to your monitor or desk. Set up LastPass, set up KeyPass, set up something that is a password vault. You only have to remember the one password. Everything else you can let it generate the password and save it, save the URL. It'll automatically fill it for you. You won't have to constantly be going, oh, what was my password for Netflix? What was my password for my bank? Don't reuse passwords. Utilize multi-factor. So even with password vaults, there are still ways that they can get around that. They can brute force. They can figure it out what your password is, no matter how complex it is. It just is a matter of how much patience and the resources does the hacker have. So put in things like like multi-factor. They can figure out what your password is, but unless they actually have the authenticator app that's on your phone, directly on your phone and have access to your phone, they're not going to be able to do it because there is a specific time frame. They can't, it's not foolproof, but it is mountains better than just having passwords and password vaults. Do both. At biggest thing at work, always contact your manager, your IT staff, and cybersecurity if something happens. Let them know what you experienced, because Just because it happened to you, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen to someone else. And don'ts is when you do receive fraudulent emails, don't just reply back. Don't don't do things that will give them any kind of leg up on manipulating you, because that's their end goal. Manipulate you to get what they want, and that's always money. Things to watch out for. So the from line with a display name of a established contact in your email, things like Hotmail, Outlook.com, Gmail, anything Office 365. They will always just show the display name if it's a known contact. If you have the printed display name and then after it you see, like I have there in carrots, the email address at maildomain.com, something. So let's say you're expecting an email from someone from where I work, Fearings. If you see my name, but then you see Nick Yon or Nyon at gmail.com, that's not me. That is 100% not me. So that's the things you have to watch for. If you know someone is coming from Hotmail and their display name is their first name, last name, and that's the only thing you've ever contacted them with, but then you have something that's coming up and saying at AOL.com, at gmail.com, at something.gz, something completely obscure. Pay attention to that. Just doing that one thing is going to help protect you from spoofing emails left and right, inside the office and outside the office. If you hover your mouse over an attachment, if it displays a web link, it's not an email attachment. That's a web link. That is a thing that hackers will do to trick you into thinking that you're opening an attached file when it's redirecting from a malware site. Attachments with web links inside them and directs you to use it. So if someone sends you an invite to an event, and you have to click inside this Word document or PDF, and then you have to click on a link to take you to a website afterwards, that's a way they can get around URL filters. Don't do that. And if anyone is watching this and you have done that intentionally to send an invite to someone, please stop. You're not making anyone's life better by doing that. You're actually making the jobs of people like me, cybersecurity engineers, much harder, because that is now a legit person doing something that hackers have been doing for years. Please don't do the things that hackers do. It's not better. It makes things worse. Always make sure that the email is from an established contact. So if someone's calling and saying, hey, I have this quick task I want you to do, verify it. Give them a phone call. Give them a text message. Say, hey, I just got an email from you. Is this legit? And if they go, wait, I didn't send you an email. It's like, okay, you've been compromised. Take care of your email so other people know about it as well. And if you do receive a compromised email, replying back to that email is not going to help. It's actually going to hurt. You have now notified the hacker, oh, someone knows I'm in. They can either dig in, do more damage, or set things off sooner. You always want to have a plan. So always do a quick verification on things that are quick tasks. If someone emails you and says, hey, you need to send me gift cards, prepaid credit cards, send me something in Bitcoin or a wire transfer, always check, verify. Don't assume it's real or legit, even if it's from the actual real email address, because just like we had in the last example, it could be someone has a compromised email. Always verify. Emails, texts, phone calls, and even letters in the mail can be used. And if they're saying that they're from a government entity saying you're in violation of something, that should be a number one. No, that's not legit. And if you're that concerned that you think it might be legit, call the agency, call the local office, call the state office. Call the government federal office. It's the IRS. Call the IRS. They will know right away. And if you're doing it by going to irs.gov, you're going to find out real fast, oh, that wasn't legit. All right, and now last thing before the Q&A is the social engineering example. So here, we actually had this happen at Fearings, where one of our new employees, which happens to be our marketing guy, he's very good at his job, but someone spoofed him to our financial office. And here you can actually see a part of what I was explaining before. Here's the known printed name, the display name, and in carrots, mileageE1@gmail.com. That is not Randy's email. Randy's email ends in fearings.com. That's an immediate, that's not legit. And then I also have things that help prompt people to know, hey, this could be spam. It's something that is in that gray area that our current filter system isn't always accurate on. So I put this in there so people can read the subject line. And for everyone out there, always, always, always read the subject line. Hacker isn't going to intentionally put in suspected spam sender. They don't want to tip you off. So it's probably your email provider, your IT staff, your cybersecurity MSSP has done something to let you know this could be fraudulent. And what was the end goal of this? Well, they almost got it. They were trying to get the payment, the weekly, bi-weekly payment to our new employee at the time. He's been here long enough now. He's not an new employee anymore. He is now established. But because he was new, and the hackers knew he was new enough by looking at LinkedIn and other things, they tricked our financial office into actually going and changing the routing number, the direct deposit. It was going to go to somewhere else. But because our marketing guy, Randy, actually pays attention to things. He is very good at following cybersecurity hygiene. He paid attention to his email. He saw that his financial payment option had been changed, and he called in and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And then our financial office went back and said, "Well, you asked me to make a change to your account," and he immediately went, "That was not me," as you can see right there in the email. "This is not me. This is spam. This is a cyber attack. Please undo everything right away." And he also did best practices for inside a business. He let his boss know. He notified me, the cybersecurity staff, that this happened. So we were able to make sure that everything happened correctly and that there was nothing else. And now we're at the Q&A. So for everyone, just a quick review here so you can see what it is that my list is. And we'll start the Q&A in just a second.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed that session, got a little bit out of it. And I do have a couple of questions that are already coming in. So I'm going to start answering questions. Anyone that has questions that they still want to post, please go ahead. I want to answer as much as I can. And at the end of this, I'm going to post a link where you guys can actually register to a secure forum that I've set up at our website, so that any questions that we don't have time to get to today, or things you have questions on in the future, I can still answer them for you. And let's get started. All right, so the first one that came in, the question was, I'm thinking of running my own business from home. Your statement about not using consumer grade router affirms what I was thinking. I currently have a TP-Link. Can you suggest a manufacturer, please? Would something like Draytech suffice? I Until that question, I actually hadn't heard of DreTech before, so I just looked it up a little while ago, and I would say that that firewall would borderline suffice. It still doesn't have the IPS protections. It doesn't have the anti-malware analysis and scanning as it's coming through. So that it would be an old style Gen 2 firewall, as I and Checkpoint put it. It's not going to provide enough. So the ones that I'll recommend, obviously, I'm a big Checkpoint guy. Checkpoint actually has a new SMB line called the 1500 series. I highly recommend that, especially for any business, small to medium. That's going to provide you with the same firewall technology as the Gen 2s, but then it also has the IPS, IDS. It has the anti-malware filtering, and then it has what are called zero-day scanning. The threat prevention is what Checkpoint labels it as. So anything that's not known, it's actually going to be able to analyze it and submit a piece of it to the threat cloud and find out really quickly, is it new? Is this a new piece of malware? So highly recommend that. If you aren't a Checkpoint person, you don't want it. I highly recommend Palo Alto after that, but I would also highly recommend reanalyzing your thought on Checkpoint. Hope that answers the question. If not, we can touch back on that later after I post up the URL for the forum. The next one that I have here, I've recently seen Monitor Darkly revealed as a vulnerability. The display hardware in an HP monitor, in this case, was used to overlay a green padlock on a browser. This seems low in seriousness. Am I right to think that? Actually, I would say no. I would actually put that up there as a higher seriousness item. If the vulnerability is actually able to do that, that means someone has the ability to analyze what's happening on your monitor and is just overlaying an image, fooling you into thinking something's secure when it's not. So whatever site you're on, making you think it's safe, but it isn't. That means passwords are done in clear text, or it's being encrypted, but it's going to somewhere not legit. So you want to avoid those types of situations. So if you think you have that type of thing happening, definitely I recommend having a professional taking a look at your system to see what's going on and get that taken care of. Fearings, we're an MSSP. I will be able to help you with that if you need. And if you're not in our region, we can actually work with Checkpoint and get a regional partner in your area to assist. All right, let's see. I don't see any other really pertinent questions that don't mirror those two. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, there we go. Got another one. All right, regarding mobile devices. All right, for an Android phone, even there is a virus scanner on the mobile device, how is it possible to see the mobile device has been compromised apart from using Wireshark? All right, so I can actually give an example of that. So Checkpoint Sandblast Mobile. That system, the way it works, is it actually locks in the mobile protection itself. So the only thing that can be done to it is uninstall it. So you can't modify it's anything inside it. It's going to tell you because it's reporting. So if something gets compromised, like your phone, it'll go up to the cloud management part of Sandblast Mobile and will give the IT staff a name saying, hey, this is the device. This has been compromised and what it is. And it's very quick, and it's really, really accurate. I have seen examples of it where the system shows that it's been compromised, and it's really, really effective. A lot of things that Checkpoint puts out are much faster at remediation than I've seen from others. Even their direct competitors, Palo Alto and Trend Micro, the stuff that's coming up from there are really, really fast. Let's see, and then let's see, what's the next part of that question? That seems to be Apple, as others have pre-installed apps. Actually, any device that have pre-installed malware protection, I'm not very trusting of those things because they're built into the OS. So if someone compromises the OS itself, like with an Apple device or an Android device, if it's been rooted, that means the OS is no longer legit. It's been compromised. And the moment it's compromised, all systems that are built into it cannot be relied on. So I would say be cautious of thinking that the built-in anti-malware on something's going to do a good enough job. It's one of the things that actually is happening with Chrome OS, where it has the built-in antivirus on it, and it's getting fooled quite often, actually. Any other questions going on right now? Let's see. Someone posted a Twitter thing here, so let's take a quick look at that. Let's see what we got. Okay, so that's just an example that he or she was sharing on the mobile on the Monitor Darkly monitor vulnerability. Okay, any other questions? If not, I will go ahead and put up the URL to register for our cybersecurity forum. All right, so I just posted under the announcements the URL going to our cybersecurity forum. And just to give everyone a full heads up on the way that works, is it's actually going to be running off of the Cisco WebEx platform. I picked that because of the added encryption levels that system has, and you have to be using that application to submit information. And the hardware, it's actually separated from the platform itself, where all the encryption keys are held. So it's not just software-based encryption protecting the data. It's physically separated from the system. So if someone hacks one, they have to hack both in order to decrypt and get what the messages are. So that's why we're using that for our security forum, so that everyone that's on it can feel comfortable with sharing questions about things that they wanted to find out about. All right. Well, it doesn't look like I have any more questions coming in, and we're about to the end of the hour. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to join the forum that I posted on the announcement feed, and I'll be looking forward to anyone joining that and asking questions. So everyone have a good rest of your day.